Thank you. I've been dealing with the government for decades. I've watched our own housing market in Canada more than triple in price in some areas in just over a decade. Housing affordability is almost out of reach for the entire next generation. It's gotten to the point that if you don't already own a home, you probably aren't going to own one. And that's one of the crises. You see it right there. It says you will own nothing and be happy. That is one of their goals. They want to raise your cost of living to the point where you simply can't make ends meet. You simply have to give up on the idea, the dream of home ownership, the dream of car ownership. And they're going to own everything. That is their goal. That's what COVID was all about from the start. It was never about a virus. It was never about safety. It was about power, money, and control. When this all started, I knew we were going to get locked down in our country. I knew I was going to end up being a prisoner in my own country. And just before it happened, the first and only place in the entire world that I went to speak was Ireland.
Yeah, I have you on video, that's it.
And it wasn't by accident. It was on purpose because I know the history you guys have. I know how patriotic you are. I know how much you love your country. I know how much you love your own people. So I said, if we're going to start a worldwide movement called United Non-Compliance to teach every single person on this planet to use the most powerful word in the English language, no, then the best place to start would be right here. And I think I did a good job. I came here in 2020. And just before I came, I told you guys about the lockdown. Literally the day I left, on September 20th, 2020, was the day they locked you down. The day they had introduced the 5 levels of lockdown. And like he just told you, all of that was for one thing: training for communism. Period. Every COVID measure had to do with you giving up your rights and freedoms. Rights and freedoms that are paramount to a successful society, to the point that millions of people fight and die for those rights and freedoms. But all of a sudden in 2020, you were selfish and dangerous if you actually cared about your own rights and freedoms. And they used the idea that you need to give up your rights and freedoms temporarily for the greater good and for the health of your family and children.
Just for 2 weeks.
In reality, that was simply training for this next phase. If it wasn't for people standing up to COVID, we'd still be wearing masks. I wouldn't even be here. But thanks to a wonderful movement that we started in Canada called the Trucker Convoy, Canada gave the world an example of phase 2 of United Non-Compliance. Phase 1 was the global awakening. That's why I came here in 2020, to wake everybody around the world up to the reality that this is not about health and safety, this is about control. Boom, it's that simple. As soon as the average individual understands that concept, all the propaganda, all the lies they're telling you no longer make you scared and no longer make you compliant. In fact, they make you angry and they make you able to resist. And that was the whole point. And that worked. It worked so well that the government had to change their plans. Remember when this all started, they came up as the benevolent saviors. Oh my God, there's this dangerous virus. You're all going to die unless you do everything we say. But it's all for your own good. In fact, the vaccines are so good, we're going to give you a Krispy Kreme donut. Or we're going to give you a lottery ticket if you take it. And when that didn't work, when coercion failed, we saw they went straight to brute force. Take the jab. It's mandated. No work, no travel, no gym, no restaurant, no visiting family. In fact, we might even tax you and put you in jail if you're not up to date on your shots. So what do? Honk, honk. We went to Ottawa with over 2 million Canadian citizens. And we taught them all how to stand up for themselves. We taught them all how to just say no. And in that few weeks, the entire world changed. Convoys started all around the world. One of them is still going on right now in the Netherlands, and we're going to be there soon. But Canada became the beacon of hope, light, and freedom for the rest of the world. And the rest of the world started following suit. And that's why today I'm actually able to come here. Because the whole world finally came together and just said no to these COVID measures. I was a prisoner in Canada for over a year. Over a year. And finally, we're allowed out. And we're not allowed out because we complied our way through this, like they told you, complied and everything. We got through this because we did not comply. But we're not out of the woods yet. This entire summer, I had to hear people come tell me, why are you still fighting? COVID's over. We got to take off the mask. This was never about COVID. This was about putting you in a situation where you cannot provide for your family. This is about putting you in a situation where you depend on the government for your very survival. That's what COVID was about. That's why they closed your businesses. That's why they kept you at home. That's why they tried to tell you what you can and can't buy. Because they want you broke. They want you unhealthy. They want you to depend on them. Because the moment you're no longer independent, the moment you cannot feed your family without the government's help, they no longer serve you. They rule you. And we got a taste of what government rule looks like the last 2 years. All the death, all the destruction, all the other crises that are now arising that we need to talk about wasn't because of COVID, was it? It was because of government policy everywhere around the world. And because we resisted, because we took off the mask and refused the jabs, now they want to cause you as much pain and suffering as physically possible. They want to make you feel sorry for not listening to them. They want to make you feel so hopeless, so desperate that you have no choice to go along with their plans. That's why there's a housing crisis. That's why there's a food crisis. That's why there's an energy crisis. I did the research. I looked around you guys. In some places in Ireland, housing prices went up almost 40% in 1 year. 40%! Renters looking to go in Dublin had a choice of a total of 700 rental units for a city of over 500,000 people. Students are applying for rental properties and there's already hundreds of other applicants in front of them. And now what do we have? Over 50,000 so-called Ukrainian refugees on top of all the other refugees. That's more than 1% of the entire population of Ireland as refugees that the rest of you are paying for. That means out of this crowd right here, we have a handful of refugees just in this thing that everybody else is paying for. Now I have no problem with refugees. I'm all about helping people. But when you have a country that has a crisis for the Irish people, you should be taking care of your own people before you attempt to take care of anybody else.
Thank you, Chris.
Period.
We've been saying for fucking years now.
And I'm an outsider. I haven't been here my whole life. I've only been here 3 times in my life. But I can tell you one thing. The only homeless people I've ever seen in Ireland are the Irish.
That's a fact.
That's the only homeless people I've seen. And they're trying to tell you that you're racist for wanting to be able to have a future for your children. I'm racist too. I have an Asian wife right there, that gorgeous beauty in her little pink hat. I'm so racist. Anybody who doesn't go along with the plan is racist. My Prime Minister, Trudeau, said if you don't take the vaccine, you're a misogynist, even you women, and you're even a terrorist as well as a racist. Terrorist! No, a terrorist is somebody that says, take this experimental injection or you're not going to be able to live your life. And that's what they're on in Canada. In Canada, they're already on shot number 5, ladies and gentlemen. In Canada, they're telling people that they want them to take a booster every 90 days. Why? Because they know that people will comply. The government will employ force and leverage upon you to the point that you allow. So I speak directly to the Irish people when I say, do not allow any more from your government. It is time that we move from phase 2 of United Non-Compliance, taking action, which we have been doing for over a year now, with movements like this, with lawsuits around the world. And we got to turn it into holding these people accountable. It's not a time to let these politicians play dumb. It are not dumb. They know exactly what they're doing. They love to feign ignorance, feign like the crisis is out of their hands. They're creating every single crisis for power and control. COVID was the first vehicle, and now that we tossed off the chains of the pandemic, they're turning it into climate change. They're turning it into a global recession. Why do you think all the world leaders went to England the exact time I was there? Do you think the Queen really died on September 8th? Or do you think they needed a cover to bring over 500 of the most powerful and influential leaders around the world in one place at a time to come up with the next phase of their plan? The next phase of their plan is very easy, ladies and gentlemen. It's to do the same thing that every tyrant in the history of the world has done. Starve the people into submission. When your housing prices go up unaffordable, when your gas prices go up unaffordable, when your energy prices go up unaffordable, when your food prices go up to unaffordable, what's going to happen to you? You're screwed. You're going to have no choice. The government's going to come out and say, well, I know none of you can make ends meet monthly, so we got a wonderful new program, Universal Basic Income, aka communism. And if you're looking at your kids across the table who haven't eaten in 2 days, and they're saying, Mommy, Daddy, we're hungry, and the government says, well, just download our new app, install your biometric identity via your iris, your fingerprint, and your facial recognition, submit to the digital identity and the mandatory vaccination schedule, and no problem, you'll get a couple €1,000 every month so you could survive for now until that money becomes nothing, because as we see, inflation is eating away at everything you own. And that's not an accident. It's by design. And it's not 9% like they say. Do you see the price of your grocery bills recently? Is it 9%? Did your gas prices go up 9%? And all the major expenses in your life went up significantly more than 9%. That inflation number is about as relevant as their unemployment number. If everybody has a job but nobody's getting paid enough to actually buy a house or support a family, what the hell is this country coming to? They did a survey of young people in this country, people under 25. This is supposed to be your next generation. And these are the young, educated, healthy, vibrant university students. You know what 7 out of 10 of your university-age students said? That they feel like they have no choice but to leave Ireland in order to find a life where they can sustain a family. They are literally displacing you by design. They're trying to get rid of the Irish people from Ireland, and there's a reason for it. Irish people will fight for Ireland. And they know this, so they want to get rid of you, put you in multiple countries all around the world. There's only 5 million Irish people. Yeah, maybe less. But imagine if they can get rid of 50,000 of you a year to all different countries around the world, while bringing in 50,000 non-Irish every year. How long will it take before Irish people become a minority in their own country? Not long. And with the policies that they're doing that actually support foreigners over domestic Irish citizens, there's more and more incentive for non-Irish to come and more incentive for the Irish to leave. And this is not an accident. They are doing it on purpose. They want you to feel helpless, hopeless, isolated. The reality is, you guys have some of the strongest communities in the entire world. Give yourselves a round of applause for that. Even your police, the Garda, have been fantastic everywhere I've gone in Ireland. But the government wants you to think otherwise. The government wants you to feel divided. It's all a trick, ladies and gentlemen. It's all a lie. The government always works for the people. That is why we come together like this. That is why I wrote a book, actually. It's the first book in the history of the world that got banned by Amazon the day before it went on sale. Yeah, it was so dangerous. Chapter 1 was truth and the importance of truth in our lives, because they're doing everything they can to try to make you believe lies. Literally everything the government told you over the last 2 years was a lie. Wear a mask, it'll help. That was a lie. Take this jab, it'll help. That was a lie. Slather this hand sanitizer all over your body and your children. That'll help. That was obviously a lie. Everything they told you was a lie. Now they even are locking up your teachers because he refused to call a young gentleman a they. They literally will now jail you for believing the truth. They will literally now jail you for not going along with a false reality. They're doing this on purpose. Everything is on purpose. They want to reverse up and down, left and right and wrong. They want you to feel like it's wrong to love your family, love your country, and fight for it. They want you to feel like cowardice and blind obedience is a virtue. It's never been a virtue, and it never will be a virtue. You always need to question those in power, question those in authority. And at this point, they have been questioned, and they have been found lying, deceiving, and calculating sinisterly against you. These politicians cannot pretend like they don't know what they're doing. They cannot pretend that this is out of their hands. And like Derek said, there's literally 30,000 NGOs in this company, all getting your tax dollars to literally fund policies that are going to subjugate and destroy your family's future. Billions and billions of dollars, while the same government is literally wasting these billions. They're telling you, oh, if only we had a couple more $1 billion a year, we could completely solve the housing crisis. Well, you do have it. You just have to have someone in power that's going to spend your money on what you need it spent on. Ladies and gentlemen, politics has to become a community endeavor. We cannot allow the few major cities to dictate the entire direction of a country, because we know what direction it's going. We have been given a gift. Everything they have done to us, yes, it's caused pain and suffering. Yes, it's caused you to question your future. Yes, it's been a very bumpy ride, literally a nightmare. But what has happened to every single person this last 2 years? Man, women, and child. Everyone that has survived thus far has got a little bit stronger. Every single one of you. And when you put that energy together on a national scale, you have enough power to make change in this country. And when we put it all together on a global scale, we are literally standing at the forefront where we have the power to transform the future of the entire world into a utopia where the average person can have a standard of living much higher and with much lower cost than anybody ever thought possible. And all it takes is to keep spreading the awareness we have been spreading, not just about COVID, not just about the world global recession, not just about the fact that they're coming for you or climate change, the fact that they're doing every single thing in their power, using every type of leverage possible and imaginable to take more of your money and to exert more control over your lives. That's what this has been about since day one. And now that they've backed off on COVID, don't think they're going to stop. And there's a saying, ladies and gentlemen, all evil needs to succeed is for good men to do nothing. They've literally told you what they're doing to you. They have it on TV. They have politicians telling you. So now it's up to you to actively resist. Up to you to spread the word around your community. That's why I make this clothing line. Just say no. I can wear it anywhere. People that don't even recognize me will come up to me and say, what does that mean? And then 2 minutes of conversation, I just woke somebody up. I've been doing it all around the world, ladies and gentlemen. If I can wake up millions, just one person, what's stopping each and every one of you from waking up 5 or 6 people? Nothing. Nothing except you telling yourself you can't do it. And I went to an amazing event in Great Britain called United Artists for Freedom. And I saw people delivering their truths in all different ways, using the most powerful weapon we have, the spoken word. There's a reason why the First Amendment of the United States Constitution is free speech, and the Second Amendment is a gun. I'm much more dangerous with this microphone in my hand on this podium than I am with an AK-47. And that is why they're trying to destroy people who will speak out. That is why they're trying to destroy the truth. But when I went to this event, I saw people sharing their truth, whether they used comedy, satire, a poem, a song, or simply shared a personal experience like a loved one getting hurt from one of these jabs. That's when I realized that every single person has a different trigger that wakes them up. My voice, my truth, my knowledge, it's very effective. Don't get me wrong. Look, I can see you all listening right now. But it doesn't hit everybody. Some people look at me and say, oh, what an asshole. And they're probably right. but I'm right usually. But the point is, everybody has ability. Everybody matters. Even if your song sucks, and 999 people out of 1,000 don't even pay attention. If you woke up 1 out of 1,000, congratulations, you just did your part. That's it. That's all you need to do. Just saying no is not enough. Just saying no is how we got this movement started. And it works for everything. Watch. Put on a mask. No. Take the jab. No. Close down your business. No. Give up your house. No. Let me inject your child. Absolutely fucking not. That's all it takes is for you to stand up. And every man, woman, and child has the ability to do that. And it doesn't cost you anything. Does it cost you anything to say no, young man? Thank you. That's all I needed to hear. There's no risk involved. The only risk involved is when you don't say no. Because your blind subservience, your acquiescence is enabling everything that's coming. Everything that they're going to do to you. They haven't stopped their plans, ladies and gentlemen. They just realized that COVID isn't scary anymore. They just realized that you're not going to say yes to the mask and the jab anymore. So now they're going to come at you financially. They're going to use climate change to try to put policies that are going to impoverish you. Why do you think there's riots right now in the Netherlands? It's because the government just passed a law stating that our new enemy is nitrogen. The same nitrogen that makes up 75% of our atmosphere is now going to kill us all if we don't slow down the nitrogen emissions. And wouldn't you know it, the #1 cause of nitrogen emissions in our world is farming. So feeding us is really killing the planet. So the only way to save the planet is to starve the people. Now back up for a second. I want to show you how sneaky incrementalism is. Remember, rights and freedoms for thousands of years were paramount to society. Rights and freedoms were the most important individual quality to have. And now over the last 2 years, you were trained that rights and freedoms were selfish and dangerous, and that you need to give them up temporarily for your health and safety, and for the health and safety of the children and the old people, or you're a grandma and baby killer. And now that they got you trained like a dog to give up those rights and freedoms and even view them in a negative fashion, the next phase is climate change. Because with climate change, a crisis can last for generations, not just for a couple of years. And now the new mantra is, you need to give up your rights and freedoms permanently. And now, not for your health and safety, for the health and safety of the planet. So we went from human beings being the most important thing on planet Earth, and individual rights and freedoms for those humans being the most important, to now, human beings are the problem. The main virus on planet Earth that need to be taxed, controlled, monitored from cradle to grave. And you got a taste of it. You got a taste of what the lockdowns are. And what they want to do is bring back those lockdowns, only now they want to combine it. They want to have universal basic income, a digital ID, and a digital currency. Because once they get you broke enough that you need to go on a universal basic income, in order to get that universal basic income, they'll make you submit to the digital ID. In order to get the digital ID, they'll make you submit to the mandatory vaccination scheme and anything else they want. And now at this point, they own you like a dog for the rest of your life. If they tell you you can't go more than 5 kilometers from your house, and you jump in your electric car and it won't even start because they can stop it, and then you decide you're going to be a badass and jump on your 1980s pedal bike, which doesn't have any GPS functions, and you pedal that 5K from your house, you're going to walk into the store to buy that thing that you want. And when you go scan your your phone, which will have your digital wallet on it, if it's not already chipped in your hand, guess what it's going to say? Transaction declined because you're outside of your zone. You naughty child. You went more than 5 kilometers away from your house. Your leash isn't that long. So now you can't buy that bottle of water. Imagine a world without cash. We got a taste of it in Canada. Our system went down for 3 days. Rogers is the biggest cable internet provider in all of Canada. So for 3 days, most people couldn't use their phones, their internet, or their wireless banking services. If there was no cash, that would mean the entire economy would have stopped for almost 3 days. That would have been catastrophic to society. And just like the government's warning you of energy blackouts this year, why? Because they want to punish you. How hard would it for them to just turn off your wallet and blame the tech companies for it? Whenever
Yeah, cool.
you get out of hand, they can do it on an individual scale. You were a bad girl today, so no wallet for you. Or they can do it on a grand scale. Oh, we're trying to have a demonstration in Cork today? Boom, all you're screwed. And if you think that's far-fetched, they have it in China already. China started with the COVID Safe app, where you needed to download the app, and it would go green when you do a test, and go red when your test was positive. And that would be able to do to come and go from your house. People got used to it, so they upgraded it, and they combined it. They set up quarantine facilities all throughout China. These are prisons. And then they changed the app, so not only does it go red if you don't take a COVID test, it'll go red if you're not up to date on your vaccinations. And what do you need that little app for? You can't leave your house without it. You can't get into a cab without it. You can't access an ATM without it. You can't leave your zone without it. So as soon as that goes red, you are obligated by law to walk to the nearest prison and check yourself in. It's such a wonderful system for the communist regime because they can just turn your little app red whenever they want, even if you didn't have a COVID test or anything. And they did it. There was a bank in China a couple months ago that basically told hundreds of thousands of depositors they're not going to get their money. So what did the people do? They decided to go and try to take out their money. What did the bank do? They called the government and said, we have a problem. We got thousands of people that are going to try to take money out of the ATMs. It's going to cause a bank run and a big problem for us. So you know what the government did? It just turned all their little COVID apps red, so they wouldn't be able to access any ATMs or even get in a taxi and go to the bank to try to do it in person. So the people got smart. They tried to do what I said, get on their little bicycles and pedal there. But guess what? As soon as they got there, the government had tanks lined up in front of the bank to prevent citizens from going in and getting their money. And then, because they couldn't have that happen indefinitely, the government just passed a law virtually overnight that said all Chinese deposits are now state-owned. So the banks can decide if to give you your money or not. That's where they are in China. They also have over 500 million people locked down as we speak, to the point where you cannot leave your house. They have drones flying around doing facial recognition and playing a message on repeat. And you know what the message is translated in English? Resist your soul's desire for freedom and obey our COVID restrictions. They are literally telling you to submit to slavery. They literally have 500 million people locked down. 100 times the population of this country is locked down completely in China. And people think this is over. People think it's not coming back. Ladies and gentlemen, the only way this is over, the only way this nightmare ends, is if we get crowds like this 10, 20, 30 times larger, and you people leave here with a plan. You can't just leave here feeling uplifted because you got to hear me. You can't just buy a t-shirt, which are right over there by the way, and think you did your top. Actually have to buy it and wear that. Look, I see a lot of people wearing it today that were at previous events. You know how powerful it is when I'm in a Canadian city and I see hundreds and hundreds of people wearing Just Say No shirts, and those people walk around that city. You can literally change the face of a city or town in a day. And I love going to smaller towns all across Canada. I don't want to go to a place like Vancouver where 90% of the people are liberals and don't understand anyway. I like going to the towns that are 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people. Because we can get a couple thousand people. We can get a giant chunk of the entire population to show up. And if each one of them heed my warning, and each one of them leave that place and go out and with that energy and start waking people up, start letting people know what's going on, within a couple of days, that entire town is different. That entire town has changed. And that's what we need to do. We need to go to the rural communities where people still care about each other, and we need to unite them. We need to make it so the cities become surrounded by people who care about nothing else but freedom. Freedom is the most important, essential thing for humanity to survive. If you don't have freedom, you don't have any type of future. If your children know they can't buy a house, if your children know they're not going to be able to support a family, why would they stay in Ireland? Answer, they won't. And that's exactly what the controllers want. They want you to give up. Because that's the only way they can win. Countries like Vietnam, Afghanistan, they should have got bowled over by the US and Russia within days. But guess what? It became the worst nightmare for those giant armies. Why? Because a person fighting for their home is worth 100 hired thugs trying to take it. Period. I would gladly stand with the Irishmen of this country against these globalists any day of the week. And I know there are millions of people just in this country that feel the same way. And as long as people will never give up, as long as people will continue to fight, more and more people will join our ranks daily, and more pressure is put on these so-called global elites. Their time is up. They are getting desperate, ladies and gentlemen. That is why they're making it so bad, and that is why it's more important than ever to hold on with everything you have. Look at your children. Remember what you're fighting for. If you don't have children, think about who you love more than anything in this world. Think about what about this country you love more than anything in the world, and then ask yourself, is it worth fighting for? Is it worth it?
Yep.
Thank you. That's all you need. You need that attitude, and they can never control you. You need that attitude, and they can never destroy Ireland. This is the time where you need to stand shoulder to shoulder, side by side, set aside all differences, and simply fight for your lives. Fight for your children's future. Fight for your freedom. Thank you, everybody. God bless you.
Thank you, Chris.